Today's question regarding Ask a Psychologist comes from Eve Lanchester, who asks, how can you relate with someone who has issues as a result of an awful childhood? And how can you help someone if you've never been there yourself? Can you really help someone via reading textbooks and exams? Great question. And I think in some sense there's a presumption in this question that you need to have been through the experience yourself to know anything about that or to know how to assist someone in reconciling their own challenges. So I use a metaphor, or I suppose the analogy of a surgeon isn't required to have broken their hip to go out and know how to work on a hip. Thankfully, that's the case. Otherwise, how would we get brain surgeons and heart surgeons and the rest when some of these things are going to be done in their first time ever, and that's how we advance things. We use an evidence-based approach. What that means is that we've used research, we've used science, we've used data to go out and examine what are the fundamental, for example, pillars of mental health and well-being that will help someone going through, whether it be trauma, depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive. So there are treatment methods and models which we've gone out and tested using scientific methods. So we're scientist practitioners first and foremost. Now I think it's also another presumption here is that you can't fully appreciate or fully understand someone's experience, and that's actually right. You can't fully, but I think you can grasp a decent amount of someone's experience. Having sat down with someone, listened to their story, being curious about their story, in some sense kind of sat through that pain, that anguish, that discomfort, because you're holding a compassionate and non-judgmental approach. So psychologists often have compassion as part of their being, or they're trained to be compassionate, to take different perspectives and viewpoints rather than to judge. And so in doing that, we can understand how a childhood could be traumatic. So an example might be, I myself wouldn't say that I've been awfully bullied as a young person, but there's been little bits and pieces here and there. Having said that, that doesn't mean that I can't be compassionate toward bullying and to appreciate and understand what it might be like to be teased, to be ostracised, to be isolated, to be bullied and shunned from a social network, and how difficult that must be going day in, day out into a classroom or into a school setting, leaving one's home knowing that there's going to be hours and hours and hours of severe angst, anxiety, pain, loneliness, fear that shows up. And I'm assuming that I kind of know that that's the case, not having experienced it, but having been able to be compassionate with someone else's story. So I think psychologists are able to sit in the shoes of their clients, not to 100% fully appreciate it, but I think we can get reasonably close. Our job, on the other hand, is not necessarily to know one's experience through the textbooks and exams, but it gives us an insight as to how people might be experiencing this world and what particular things might be helpful. And in doing our studies and our practice, and there's thousands of hours of practice that we do, we also get an opportunity to learn ways in which we can be conduits, if you will, or mediums, to ask questions that really challenge clients to think about their situation, or in this case, their childhood in a different way, whether it's taking a different perspective, whether it's considering another angle, whether it's going out and trying to learn from it, whether it's trying to appreciate what that young person was going through from the eyes of the older person. So it's kind of like the older self looking at the younger self. There's many different ways that we can go out and assist and help and relate to those feelings and experiences differently. So thank you very much, Eve, for your question. I think it does go out and help sometimes if you have gone through those experiences, but it's certainly not a prerequisite. Please, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this channel, share it, tell other people about it, and obviously ask as many questions. I'd love to get back to you with more answers to your questions. So thanks again.